Welcome back to One Out Racing. It's been 2 whole months since my last video, and a lot's happened. The channel seemingly has been ticking along quite nicely without me, which is always nice. Still getting lots of views. The build series for how to turbo your Cinquecento is done very well, actually. I've managed to go over 300 subscribers now, which is absolutely flipping awesome. So all good times. Since the last video, I've actually bought 2 motorbikes and another car, and numerous other things have gone on. But in today's video, I'm just going to concentrate on vehicles of the two-wheel variety, and I'll explain exactly what hell I'm doing and why I've not been doing Fiat-related things for a change. I'm really glad you've been patient while I've basically disappeared. But if I'm in all honesty, the reason I've been gone is because there's basically nothing left to cover on this. I did everything. I fixed it all. I went through it. I redid a load of stuff that I didn't like from the first time I did the project. It was mint. I had it sat outside waiting for it to be taken to HAD for mapping. 4 minutes before it was due to be picked up, the transport place cancelled because their driver had COVID. I mean, yeah, take it or leave it whether that excuse is real, but it happened. And ever since, HAD's been too busy because Chris has run off his feet at the moment to be able to fit me in. So it's just currently sat there as a garage ornament like it always has. So its future is uncertain at the moment. So I honestly don't know what to do with it. But because I was bored, I decided I need another project. That's what I need, Ben. I need to spend more of my hard-earned money on other things with engines that are broken. And I've always wanted to do some old mopeds, you know, something cool, not like a Lambretta and stuff. That's a bit too old. Sort of 80s, 90s kind of mopeds. Do something cool for my thought, but let's not jump into the deep end because I have absolutely no idea about two-strokes and stuff like that. And I'll start from the bottom. So I jumped onto the fabulous Facebook marketplace, which I'll be honest with you is just as much a blessing as it is a curse. And I found myself this. Yep, a cheapo 2016 Lex Moto Echo, all 50cc 4-stroke of Chinese greatness. Dodgy starter, wouldn't run properly. Managed to suss it all out quite happily. Most simple engine I've ever worked on in my life. I was absolutely buzzing. I took it apart with, I think, 2 sockets and a screwdriver. Fixed all the starter, fixed all the running problems, got it set up pretty well. Sold it within the space of 2 weeks. Took about 4 hours to fix it. Made a little bit of money. Happy days. So I thought, right, next one I'm going to get is going to be a little bit cooler. I'm going to try and get a proper 2-stroke, and I want it to be retro. So I bought this. That, my friends, is an SYM Motor Company, call it whatever you want, Red Devil. Now, okay, it's still a Thai brand. It's not, you know, like a Honda or something Japanese, but still a little bit of an upgrade from the Chinese thing I had before. Now, again, this one, actually, pretty peachy. Unlike most of the bikes I contacted about, it had a logbook, so at least it wasn't nicked. Had a couple of keys. Person had had it for about 14 years, and it just sort of slowly, progressively stopped running. So I was like, well, it's not anything catastrophic if it kind of progressively got to it. So I picked it up for an absolute song. Got it dropped off, and things progressed fast in this house. So I've already started stripped pretty much everything off it, exhaust, all of the carb and all the other random stuff, black magic that makes the 2-stroke work. And I'm just going to pull the whole engine out. I did a compression check on it. It's got like 65 psi compression, which anyone can tell you is absolutely appalling. There's no valves, there's no timing, nothing. It's all basically near enough. All of it's controlled by the actual piston, all the inlet and outlet for the exhaust, the whole shebang. So pretty much the only way to go with it is top end rebuild. So that's a new cylinder, new piston, new rings, and then just slap the top back on it again. It's as simple as it sounds, I hope. Get that all running, stick a new exhaust on it, do all the wheels. I'm going to go for white wheels and stuff. But either way, I've got about, well, no idea whatsoever when it comes to 2-strokes. So I'm learning on the fly. So chances are it's going to be a bit sporadic. The videos are probably going to come a little bit random as I just sort of work my way through it. I'll probably chuck a time lapse on and just keep jumping back as we go. Fingers crossed, it all goes well, and we'll have ourselves a peachy little moped by the end of this. I'm rambling, I'm a little bit rusty because it's been a couple of months. I'm excited to be back, so just bear with me. So let's jump straight into this and see what we find. Right, I've taken out the box that I think we need to take out, pull the engine out. It looks like it should come out. If I lift it up, the whole back of it just basically wants to fall out, but it's just kind of stuck somewhere. So I don't know if that's just 24 years of grind, whether I missed the point, whether I'm doing something different. Just kind of got engine mounts, if you want to call them that. I don't know if I've undone them from the wrong end. I just hope it's not this hard to get it back in. I'm just going to keep on messing around with it, see if we can get it out. As with anything, if you start getting a problem, you really can't get it sussed out. Don't start stressing out about it, and don't just keep on hammering at it until you break something. Go to bed, go have some lunch, have a drink, do whatever you got to do, because I can't work it out. I honestly can't work out why it doesn't want to come out. There are 2 bolts I can take out, which will effectively take the engine, unbolt the engine from the bike a different way. But I mean, the first one does not want to come undone. I really don't want to have to go down the route of trying to hammer that out and then ruin something. So I'm just going to go to bed. Well, go in, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and see if anything comes to this big old fat head of mine. And then we'll go from there when I'm nice and fresh. So until the morning, see you later. Yeah. Now, okay, I got the engine out, and I kind of forgot to video it. Now, if I'm honest, I came out here with a fresh head. I started working on the actual bike. I thought before I start filming anything, I'll just have a little bit of a mess around, just see if there's anything I'm missing before I just film stuff for the sake of it. And in the end, it just kind of dropped out. I worked out what it was, and boom, the engine was on the floor, and I didn't film any of it. But just to give you a real brief rundown, if you see just there, that is effectively where these little rubber pivots, which is obviously what allows the engine to move up and down when it's actually bolted in, you almost have to lift the frame up really, really high like this. And then the other side, the engine obviously lifts up with it, and it just kind of pops out. I suppose it's kind of pivoted in there. It's probably for safety, so God forbid a bolt would come undone either side, and you'll happen to do a wheelie, the back end doesn't fall out. But either way, it was actually pretty easy in the end. I did leave a couple of wires attached, typical kind of thing, so it was like dragging itself back through. But now it's off. So next job is I'm going to take the wheel off it, which somebody did mention looks like it's been in the bottom of the ocean for a while. It's not as bad as it looks, but that's going to get repainted all white. And so is the front, because red bike, white wheels, you know, rough, real 90s. And then I'm going to get it up onto the table, which is the nicest thing about bikes, because honestly, I can pick this thing up with one hand. I cannot get over how lightweight and compact the 2-stroke is, and that's an obvious thing to say, given the a Flymo petrol Flymo Strim is a 2-stroke. But either way, and then we're going to start the very satisfying job of clearing off all of this grime. Now you'll see I got a Stanley blade earlier on. Look at that, and it literally just scrapes it all off. So I'm going to try and clean off as much as I can. I've already clogged the actual carb inlet with some old cloth that I've got. Get as much of this grime off there as I can before I work out how the hell this cooling shield came off, because I've got a couple of 8mm bolts on it, took them off, and it still won't budge, which seems to be a story of a lifetime with this bike. But either way, good progress. Well, that was pretty easy. I had to go at it with an impact gun for about 45 seconds to a minute, but eventually that nut came off. Do you know what? While we're doing this stuff, let's learn together. Let's grow as people. So look, on a moped, generally all mopeds, at least on the rear, they actually just run a drum brake. So look, this is why they're so compact and easy, is the actual pads are actually part of the whole assembly. So when you take the wheel off, they just stay in there, and it actually runs on the inside of the wheel. Now, by the looks of it, again, I've never even looked at one of these. This is the first time I've seen it. It does look like there's 4 bolts there. So my assumption is that you'd be able to actually remove this brake drum bit and replace that if it's worn out. Now, my one isn't looking wicked, but it doesn't look too bad either. So I reckon a little bit of a cleanup, that'll be fine. But it definitely looks like that's been binding, which is why the bike wasn't moving very much. Either way, I'm going to move all this stuff up, and then we'll chuck it up there and see what we're working with. Now, I don't know if it's a 2-stroke thing or a motorbike thing, but that is a lot of crud to get off with effectively 2 or 3 minutes with a screwdriver and a Stanley blade. But either way, this was all completely black when I started, and I didn't want it all getting into the actual case and stuff when I take it off, or getting in all the brakes, and obviously getting all of the carbs and stuff like that. Now, I'm almost certain I know what's wrong with this engine, which is going to be the top end rebuild. But before I start getting into that, taking that apart, and obviously risk getting all dirt and stuff in there, I'm actually going to take the kickstart off, take this plate off, and this is where the clutch and the CVT transmission and all the timing belt and stuff are. I just want to make sure that's not all completely shot or there's anything terrible going on in there. As long as that's all good, I'll pop the case back on. We won't worry about that. Maybe I'll do a bit of a service on it at some point. Otherwise, then we've got to try and figure out how to get this cooling fan off, and I'll explain all the sort of principles for that Do you know what? I'm even going to teach you how two-strokes work because I've recently been doing a lot of research in it and it blew my mind. Now, thankfully, somebody had the sense when it comes to bikes that pretty much everything's either a 10 or an 8mm bolt, pretty much. Well, I found a few random 11s, I think a 14 is somewhere on there, but otherwise 8mm is your friend. Definitely use one of these because it'll take you forever. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, now that's definitely the first weird thing that I found on the bike. Now, anybody out there who's a bit of a bike aficionado is going to be able to spot the problem straight away, but we're going to go into it anyway. Apart from being pretty grimy, I've noticed this random little bit of something there, and I was thinking, okay, hang on a minute. That looks surprisingly like really badly frayed bout. That's a bit strange, I think. Oh, they've fitted the belt back upside down. So this toothed area is supposed to be facing inwards so that it actually grips inside the actual cones. I'll explain all that in a little bit. And you can see, if I can get in there, let me get a torch, just how frayed that has got. I mean, that's only got a certain amount of time left in it before that snaps, which to be fair, it's not catastrophic. It just won't run anymore. But yeah, that's supposed to be actually the other way around. So they've obviously replaced it at some point, trying to be good. But you can see in there, look. You see how it's kind of got like a V shape where it sort of slots in there? And this is kind of how CVTs work. It's they don't really have gears. It's kind of almost like if you imagine a cone where it's small at the top and big at the bottom, and the further up and down the cone it goes is how, I suppose, faster, like the gearing changes as you move up and down the cone. So that bout is absolutely shot. And that's definitely going to come off. Now, thankfully, from memory, it's not too bad a job. You have to take that off. I think you have to probably take off the clutch and stuff as well because you obviously have to be getting there. But otherwise, that's job number one at least. But I mean, so far so good. Nothing looks absolutely diabolical in there apart from that. But top work to whoever replaced that last time. So there you go. Look, that's the little clutch. A little bit worn there. I think I'll probably clean that up a little bit. It actually doesn't look too bad. Plenty of meat left on it. I don't think that's probably been helped by the fact the belt's been the wrong way around. But to prove my point, this is it with the right way around, and you will see what I mean. See how much better that just kind of slots in there? Because it's supposed to basically pinch on the inside of there, but fitting that the other way around, I don't really get the concept of that. But, you know, simple mistake. Everything's easy when you know what you're doing. But either way, that's toast. Everything else, though, is looking pretty peachy. So I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up inside there. Nothing too nuts. All the starter motor mechanism, all the Bendix gear and stuff, that all looks top notch. Nothing in there looks wrecked. So at the moment, it's looking peachy. All I have to do is order a new belt. And I'm going to start stripping the top of this off now once I put all this back together. And then see what we've got to do for the head. But that's going to be the most interesting bit. Here we go, I'm back at it again, and as I'd hoped, it's Saturday and my parts turned up from Euro Scooter Parts off eBay. And I have to say a massive shout out to that company because as I've been building this bike and the last bike, rather than just sort of roughly figure out what it needs and order a load of stuff and then, you know, maybe not get the right part or whatever, I've been basically dismantling it, finding something I need, ordering that one part, and then carrying on, finding something else, ordering that part. So I've been having to order lots of little tiny packages. But I swear, out of about the 8 things I've bought, regardless what time of day it seems to be that I order it the day before, it turns up the next day in a packet. Exactly perfect. I've never got the wrong part. I've never been unhappy with the quality of the bits. Like, it's literally been nuts. I haven't had a company that I've dealt with that have, well, not disappointed me so many times. It's flipping fantastic. So, either way, I've got the new belt. I'm going to turn the camera off, just make sure it's the right one. And I'll flip it around and I'll just show you how to actually fit all this other stuff. And I might give you some sort of rundown of sort of roughly how the gearbox and stuff on these works, because it's pretty interesting. So we'll just dive into that now, see where we get to. As I showed you before, this is the clutch setup on there. Like I said, I've not really done anything other than just make sure it's nice and clean. There's not too much wear on side the valves and stuff. Now you can upgrade all of these bits, but considering I'm not running any more power, it's not like a keeper, it's not like a bike that I'm going to be keeping. I'm just going to go with this. And before I put that on there, I'm just going to put a little bit of bike grease on the inside of that. We'll do that one, and then now this is a slightly more interesting one. Now if you see this, I'm going to try and get around the camera. Now with the gearboxes and the clutches and stuff on scooters, like there's a lot of, I guess, tuning that you can do. So if you've got a standard bike and everything, you just leave all this stuff basically standard. It all generally works really well and it has the desired effect. But if you start putting a little bit more power, you fit an exhaust, you reject your carb or something like that, what you'll tend to find then is if you're moving the power band or you're changing the sort of characteristics of the engine, the clutch and stuff may not bite in the place that you want. So it may well be as you twist the throttle, the engine might bog down a little bit and it doesn't really kick in, because what happens is as this spins, sometimes it will take a little while for this to spin fast enough, the clutch, before it actually properly starts engaging. But you can actually change some parts in here. Now these are really, really simple things. Now if you look in there, can you see these little roller balls? Now these little roller balls here, depending on the weight of these, actually changes, I guess, the characteristics of when the power kind of cuts in. So when they're standard, they might be a little bit heavier. And then what happens is, say they're, I don't know, 10 grams a piece. You want this to actually kick in a little bit earlier. So obviously starts to actually move those bearings out a bit faster. You can buy lighter versions of it. It is a real fine art and not one that I testify in knowing a huge amount about. But it's been proper interesting finding out about it. But again, I'm not changing anything on mine. So I'm just going to keep the stock rollers in this. They all look in decent condition. Again, a little bit of bike grease on there. And I'm going to chuck that on. I'll do that on a time lapse just so you haven't got to see it, because you don't need to see that. And then we'll take it up from that bit. Okay, now I don't know if you could tell this from the time lapse, but that was actually really hard to get on. And the reason for that is it's basically got to sit up and over the top of this little kind of, I don't know, bush, I suppose, there. And you know if it's roughly right because it should be just over the edge. So that's right, that side. And it also needs to sit inside this. Now, the reason it's so difficult is because this is on a spring. So this here is trying to squeeze shut the whole time. It's basically got a spring in there. It's called a contra spring. And it's trying to squeeze this shut. So what happens is, as this spins, it changes the gearing because this opens, so the bout gets in further in, or it closes, so it pushes the bout further out. So that's how the actual CVT box basically works. The challenge sometimes when you're getting this bout on, especially in this setup where it seems like quite a stiff spring and it sits in there quite a lot, is you have to be able to squeeze that out to get the bout to sit in far enough so it's long enough to get it over the end, if that makes sense. Now you will notice that this one is also sort of cone shaped. So again, that goes on there. That grips the actual bout itself. And like I said, this end does the exact same thing where it grips it just from pinching it. So, I mean, you can understand why the person got the bout round wrong way the other time. One, it'd have been a lot easier to put it round without the teeth, which is probably why they did it. Secondly, you know, it doesn't seem right to have a toothed bout on a smooth surface, but that's what it is. So anyway, like with brakes and stuff, so you'll see there, look, that's got dirt on it. Like with brakes or anything like that, make sure you clean up these surfaces because they are contact points. So I've already cleaned this up with a little bit of alcohol. I'll do a similar thing in there. I'll just spin the engine and just make sure that's done. I'll clean this up, clean the inside of this, because that's essentially kind of like a flywheel, and then put it all back together. It's in a couple of bolts, not particularly hard to torque up, so it's not an issue at all. I thought I'd stick that sticker in there, if nothing else, just to confuse whoever it is who gets to bite when they take it apart. That little minion is ready for the ride of his life. For any of you that are concerned about me using the old Decker Dagger on there, don't lose any sleep over it. It's fine. I didn't use the proper impact gun, just a little one. And that was just to get them mostly tightened up. I'm sure they probably are tight enough like that, but I will find some way just stopping that flywheel moving. Just get like a torque wrench or something on there just to make sure they're definitely done. Otherwise, jobs are good. And so all I need to do now is just clean up the actual case, because that's still disgusting. Get it bolted up onto there. So then is tidy, good to go. And that's it. So, yep. cooling cover off, and then we'll start pulling the engine apart. And I'll leave the episode there. I think next episode probably makes more sense to do the engine teardown, rebuild, and hopefully, assuming I get everything done properly, back in the bike and it running. For any of you watching the video throughout this who found it interesting, but have also sat there thinking, Ben, you're looking pretty good. Now, I haven't been working out any more than normal. It's actually maybe something to do with my wonderful t-shirt I'm wearing. And if you want to look this good too, don't forget to step by the One Out Racing online store. I've got all kinds of stuff on there for men and women. Hoodies, t-shirts, chill tops, long sleeve track tops, you name it. There's usually some kind of sale on the go as well. So keep an eye out for the promotional codes. But either way, until the next episode, stay safe and I'll see you then. Beauty. Get in.